Hi guys, it's me, Mars. um, so today's video is the rest of my testimony because I realized that I kind of left you guys hanging. From one of the first couple of videos, I think I had started telling a little bit about my testimony, but I didn't go into detail because I wanted to take the time and do it in another video. So here's the video. So we begin at 14 years old. And so, like, of course, some parts you might have heard already. But when I was 14, that was the time when I would say I was at my lowest point in my spiritual life. I was just completely losing an interest in God, church, anything that was related to Jesus. I just didn't want anything to do with it, because it was starting to not make any sense to me, because I was actually like trying to think, like, why do I go to church? Like, why am I Seventh-day Adventist? Why do I believe in God? Like, all these questions were just coming to my mind, and I didn't have any answers for any of them. So I was just like, well, if I don't have any answers to these questions, then I might as well just not go to church, because I felt like I was just, I was being fake. Like, why am I going to church acting like I'm, holy and everything? I love Jesus, whatever, when I don't even understand what I'm worshiping and what my religion is. So, I just started losing a complete interest in God, everything. Also at this time was the the point where my mom and I completely hated each other. Like, we had this strong dislike for each other. My mom would tell people, like, I choose my best friends wisely and stuff, and all my friends wisely. And if I had to choose my daughter as a friend, I wouldn't, and stuff like that. So it's just like, we just didn't get along at all. I just didn't like her for no reason at all. Yeah, so that was also going on at this time. And also we were going to a house church. So that made just everything. I was just not interested in anything. I just felt like I had no purpose in life. Why am I here, kind of thing. And I was homeschooled, so I was like, I don't have a social life, no friends. Like, I was just done with everything, basically. Fast forwarding a little. So, I think around 15, I was starting to look at, colleges and stuff, because as a homeschooler, you kind of have to do these things ahead, whatever. So I started looking at colleges and looking at the different academics for each college. I looked at Adventist colleges, I looked at non-Adventist colleges, community colleges, all of them, and nothing interested me at all. Like, nothing. Nursing, no. Teaching, no. Nothing interested me at all, guys. And I was just like, isn't something supposed to, like, kind of, like, send off a light bulb or something like that? Because I have to go to college, So, yeah, but nothing interested me. And I was like, all right, well, I guess it'll come later on then. Whatever, I'm not going to stress. And, so one day we were at our house church, and I was sleeping. I didn't go in church. I would usually sleep in one of the couches outside, and then wake up for lunchtime and then go back to sleep. That was kind of how my Sabbaths went. From 14 to 15, I don't even really remember going to listening to sermons or going in Sabbath school. Nothing. I don't think I did any of that. So I was sleeping one day, as usual, my routine, and my mom came and woke me up. Now, first of all, I was shocked that my mom came and actually touched me, because it was that bad. Like, we just didn't like each other to the point where we didn't really talk to each other. No hugs, no nothing. And she came and she woke me up and she said, you should come listen to the sermon. And I was like, what? Why? And so she's like, just come. And she left, and I sat there and I was like, for my mom to come tell me to listen to a sermon, like actually talk to me and tell me to come listen to a sermon, I guess it must be that interesting. So I was like, why not? You know, I've been sleeping for like 4 hours. So I went inside, and the pastor was talking about the Holy Spirit and how he can transform everyone's life. And, you know, with him, when you read the Bible, you'll be able to understand things that you didn't understand before. And he just kept going on. And it was like he was answering, some of the questions that I had. He didn't answer all of them, but like this Holy Spirit thing, I was like, I wonder. So, I went home that day, and I actually picked up the Bible for the first time in months, or a year, like probably a year. Yeah, I would say a year and a half. Like, I hadn't touched the Bible. It was dusty sitting in my room. And so I picked up the Bible, and I went to the back where it has that list, you know, of like everything in alphabetical order. And I found Holy Spirit, and I found some verses on it. And because I just wanted to see exactly what this Holy Spirit thing was. Like, is he really going to help me to understand the Bible and understand a lot of other things better? So I read on him. I just kept reading and reading and reading. And the more I read about the Holy Spirit, the more I was like, this kind of sounds like Jesus. From what I knew of God and Jesus, this kind of sounds like them. And I was like, And so I kept reading about it. And that whole entire week, I probably read thousands of verses about the Holy Spirit. Then it started leading into the New Testament. Then I started reading about Jesus's life. And then I started reading about God the Father and the part that he has in our lives. And I was just like mind blown. And all of my questions that I ever had were answered in that 1 week, because my mom woke me up to go listen to a sermon on the Holy Spirit. So that was, like, I would say the kickoff of my spiritual journey. After that week, I was like so on fire for God. I was like literally going to everyone. I was like, do you know about the Holy Spirit and the Trinity and like what Jesus can do for your life and blah, blah, blah. Like, I was so excited because I finally understood things that I didn't understand before, things I had questions on that no one would answer and stuff like that. So I was just so excited. And yeah, so then I would say probably 2 years passed, and my dad came home one day in the middle of the day from work, and he said that he threw up like 3 times that morning, and yeah, everything he ate, everything he drank just kept coming back up. And so we're like, okay, well, you know, we made some, you know, my dad was Jamaican and my mom's Guyanese, so, you know, the remedies are usually broth, you know, soup with like noodles and stuff in it, and mint tea and crackers, and yeah, that's usually the remedies that they give you. So, yeah, we took care of my dad, you know, rubbed his belly, all that good stuff, and yeah, we thought it was just, you know, like, you know, nothing was settling, it was just gonna pass. But it seemed like after that day, it just started progressing, and it went from throwing up 3 times a day to 5 times a day, even when he wasn't eating anything or drinking anything. And then after that, it was like 7 times a day, and he would just be gagging. Like, it would just be, you know, yeah, just gagging, really. And so finally, yeah, it had calmed down for a while. This was in the year of 2014. Yeah. And so it had calmed down around the middle of 2014, but towards the end of 2014, it started to pick up even more again, and it was just every day, just throwing up, throwing up, throwing up, sometimes not even throwing up anything. And so, now, January of 2016, actually on my parents' anniversary, the 9th of January, my dad went into the hospital for them to do an endoscopy, which is when they put a camera down in your stomach to see what's going on. And so they put the camera down in his stomach, and I remember that morning I texted, because I usually send out morning devotionals every morning for those of you who get them, my loyal people, you know who you are. Yeah, so I send out these texts every morning, and that morning I sent texts to even people I didn't text before, but I was like, everyone, please pray for my dad. He's going to get this endoscopy. Just pray for him, please, please, please pray for him, that nothing will, be too wrong. And I have never prayed, oh my gosh, I've never prayed that much in a couple hours. Like, I beat Daniel's record of praying. Like, I prayed a lot that morning. And so my dad came home and he sat us down, and my mom kind of had this like blank look on her face, and I was just like, oh gosh, I don't know what to expect. And so my dad opened up this folder and he showed us a picture of a regular functioning stomach, and then he showed us a picture of his stomach. A regular stomach's supposed to look pink, fleshy, beautiful, you can see the blood flowing, whatever. My dad's stomach looked like someone poured hot water on it. It looked extremely raw, just like eaten out. And there was this big round ball looking thing at the bottom of his stomach, and I was like, what is that? And my parents said that it's a tumor. And that's the reason why he hasn't been able to keep down his food. This tumor was blocking it. So I was like, what does this mean? Because I was just like, I knew what they were talking about, but I just didn't want to believe it. And so they finally told me that my dad has stomach cancer. In that moment, I really didn't know how to feel. Because usually I was so used to being able to take care of situations, either take care of the person or take care of myself. I was able to be positive and hold that person up, or hold myself up. If I was the one that was feeling weak, I was at least able to do something about any situation that I went through. But it was like, for this, there was nothing I could really do. I couldn't take the tumor out. I couldn't stop him from throwing up. I couldn't keep his food down. And I just dropped on the ground, because I felt like this loss. Like, it was like my power left me. Like, you can't do anything about this, Mars. Like, there's nothing you can do. This just has to happen, and God's will just has to be done. And I heard that in my head, but I didn't really, I was just like, what? Like, why is this happening, Because these things always happen to everybody else. It's not supposed to happen to me. That's exactly what I was thinking. And I was like, God, this is not supposed to happen to our family. Why is this happening? What have we done wrong? So from that day, my dad had to lessen his work, because he worked around a lot of chemicals. And so, he was home a lot. And eventually, we had to move into a bigger house because we had to bring in a lot of different stuff, and we had a medical missionary come and stay with us. Now, backtracking a little bit, right before my dad got sick, and partially during, and this was like early 2014, the thought of being a missionary came to me, because, like I said, nothing interested me in the colleges that I was looking at. So I was like, why don't I become a missionary? You know, for the rest of my life, I'll get to travel and share what I'm so excited about, Jesus, you know. But it was just like a passing thought. I didn't really think too much on it. And yeah, so now back to where we are. This medical missionary comes to take care of my dad. And I had talked to him more about what he did, and it was just so interesting. Like, I was so excited when he was just talking to me about how he gets to treat people with, you know, natural remedies, and like blend yams and papayas and all kinds of stuff and give it to people, and they're healed. And so, yeah, that's when, you know, the missionary thing was like, I was like, I actually really want to do this. Anyway, so my dad got all kinds of different treatments, went to a whole bunch of different doctors. They tried to tell him it was just gastritis. There wasn't really a big problem with this tumor. All kinds of stuff. We just heard all kinds of stuff, but the fact of the matter was that he did still have stomach cancer. And he didn't want to do chemotherapy, because he felt like that would damage his body even more, which it does. So he stuck with the natural remedies. You know, we were making salads for him, smoothies, blending a whole bunch of different concoctions, doing coffee enemas, a whole bunch of other stuff. But it was like he would get better, and then he would get drastically worse. And it would just, that was the pattern. It just kept going like that. There were some days he would come home and be like, I feel like 100%, you know, I feel good. And then, you know, the next few days would pass and he would be throwing up and gagging again. And it was just like, I was like, God, why are you doing this to us? You know, it was just tiring. And I was like, what are you trying to get across to us? Whatever you're trying to get across, just please let it get across now, because I just need to understand what's going on. Excuse me. And so, because my dad was throwing up so much, he had to be in and out of the hospital to replace his fluids, because he was losing a lot. He was throwing up about 7-8 times a day. And so he had to go in and out of the hospital to replace his fluids. This is the summer of 2015 now. My brother and I went to summer camp. I really didn't want to go, honestly, because I was like, I need to be here just in case anything happens, because I really didn't know what was going to happen next. I honestly didn't. And I remember one day my mom called me, and she was like, Daddy's in the hospital again, but he's going to be in there for a longer period of time, because he has to replace his fluids, and he also, they were going to put a catheter, I think it's called, in his chest, so that they could feed him, because he was no longer able to eat through his mouth. They had to put a tube in him. And so when I found that out at camp, I just wanted to go home right away, because I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there anymore. I needed to be with my dad. But we stayed out the rest of the week at camp, and then we went back home. And we went to see my dad in the hospital, and that day we went there and we saw him, and he just wasn't himself. He just wasn't himself. He was barely talking to us. It was like he didn't want to talk to us, not that he couldn't. And I was just like, this is not my dad. And so we left, and then the nurse called us to come back. And when we came back, they sat us down in one of the office rooms, and they played this message for us that my dad had left for us. And basically, he was just saying goodbye to everyone. He was saying goodbye to his friends, the ones that actually stayed close to him. He was saying goodbye to his mom, his dad, his sisters, his brothers. And then he said goodbye to us because he said he was just tired. He said he's being called home. He's done on this earth. He just wants to go home. And I remember running out of the room. I didn't really want... I refused to believe that that was my dad talking, because that just didn't sound like him. Like, why would he be saying goodbye? Why would he want to leave us over a voice message? And so my mom went in to talk to him, and then she called the rest of us in, Brandon and I, and she basically just told us to talk to him. And I begged my dad to stay with us, because I said, just stay with us for as long as you can, because I can't lose you. My dad was like my better half. He's literally like my twin, and I was just like, I can't lose you, Dad. I really can't. And I begged him to stay with us, and after much pleading, he finally said okay. And but he just wanted to be out of the hospital, because the hospital is a very depressing place. So they told him that they would be able to discharge him that Sunday. And so that Sunday or that Monday, I think he came home. We set up a bed, like a hospital bed for him in one of the rooms, and then all his feeding tubes and everything. And yeah, that week was probably one of the best weeks of my life, because it was like not that we weren't a family, but it was like we were a family again. And we forgot about, his sickness and everything, and we played with him while he was in his bed, and we talked to him, we sang songs with him, picked his afro, and it was just one of the greatest weeks, because it was like that togetherness was back, and we all forgot about that sickness, and it was just like it was the Griffiths family again. And I've never heard my dad say I love you so much before in my life until that week. Just every minute he could, he was like, hey, I love you. Even if we were just passing by the door, he would just say, I love you. And he's like, I love you too, Dad. And I love you is something that we often take for granted. It's a way deeper statement than a lot of people say it is, and it's something that can't just be used casually. You should only really be saying it if you really have a deep and intimate connection. I don't mean intimate by, sexual intimacy. I just mean intimate as in you're connected to this person. You truly love them with everything that you have in you. It's just really deep. But anyway, that Thursday, my brother and I were sitting out in the kitchen, and my mom was in the bed with my dad, just playing hymns and songs for him and stuff. And then she called his name, and he didn't answer. And she kept calling him, and he wouldn't answer. Then she called Brandon and I in the room, and she said, say his name, talk to him, he's not answering me. And so we just kept calling for him, and he wouldn't answer, and I started shaking him. And it was like the more I called for him, the more I actually knew what was happening. And it was starting to settle in that he's not here anymore. And I couldn't believe it, because it kind of, even though it went for a long period of time, it was still really quick. And sorry, we called 911. They came. They tried to resuscitate him, and I was just like, guys, you don't need to do that, because he's not here anymore. And I sat out in the couch while they were taking him into the ambulance. And I just started shaking because I just couldn't believe what was happening. I couldn't believe that I actually lost my dad. And but I was glad that the last thing that I said to him was, "I love you." And that's what mattered the most to me. So when I got to the hospital, I remember I was just sitting there watching him. But even though I was extremely heartbroken, there was this peace. There's this peace that I had been feeling for a while, but I didn't really focus on it. But when I was sitting there watching him, this peace felt even stronger than before. And I just kept hearing that it's okay, everything's gonna be okay. And I knew who was talking to me. So when that heart monitor completely stopped, everyone was crying, and crying is not a bad thing, but I didn't feel tears coming. And I was wondering why am I not crying right now, But that peace, it passed all of my understanding. I completely did not understand it, but I felt it so strongly that I felt God hugging me. And he just kept saying to me that everything is going to be okay. So my dad passed away on the 25th of June, 2016. And, 2015, sorry. And after that, it was interesting because our family was so close to being four, and I mean, we were really close. We were used to being four, sorry, and we were just a really close family, and nothing could tear us apart. And it was interesting to live with just three because it felt like something was missing. And the question would always keep coming to me, but I kind of refused to question God because I kept feeling like this happened for a reason. I just didn't understand it yet. But the question kept coming to me, why did this happen? And why did this happen to me, to us, our family? And so, after that, we just continued and tried to live to the best we could. It was really hard because a lot of people, you know, people will come to you and what you hear is like, I'm sorry for your loss. I understand what you're going through. But it's like no one ever really understands unless you go through it exactly. Unless I was angry at a lot of people because I'm like, you weren't even in our family. You don't know what this feels like, you know. This was it wrenched out my heart, you know. And no, I was like, no one understands what I'm going through. You all can say that you're sorry and that you understand, but you're not sorry. You don't understand, you know. That was just my mindset towards everyone, and I kind of shut off from a lot of people. I lost a lot of friends because I shut off from them, but they didn't understand why I did. And so, yeah, so that happened in 2015. Later that year, I went on my first mission trip to Belize to teach, to do VBS and an eye clinic with our church. And after that mission trip, I was like, yep, mission life is the way to go. So I was really excited to do missions. And I kind of felt like my dad had passed on that torch to me because he always wanted to do missions too. So I was like, I have to do this in order to, you know, feel like I'm still connected with my dad. Like I carried out his purpose kind of thing. And so that year, later that year, after I got back from this mission trip, I started researching and looking up different organizations and just trying to find someone I could go with. And so I came upon AFM, Adventist Frontier Missions, and applied. And then they called me and interviewed me. And then they called me again. And they're like, so do you want to go to first? Because you choose 3 different options. And I chose Palawan, the Philippines. They're like, do you want to go to the Philippines? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm ready. And so I went for training. And then when I was at training is when they told me that I won't be able to go to the Philippines anymore. And I won't be able to go to Cambodia, which was my second option. So I was like, where am I supposed to go then? And they said, well, your last option was Guinea, West Africa. And I did not remember putting Guinea, West Africa as my third option because I was like, Africa is hot. And I already live in Florida. So I was like, oh, I'm not sure about that. But let me pray on it. But I only had like a couple days to pray on it because they needed to know if I really wanted to go still. And so I prayed about it and I felt that same peace again. And I was like, okay, God, I'll go to Africa. And yeah, so after training was for a month, I came back home. And then a month after that, I launched off to Africa, which was last September. And I got back this June, and that was one of the best experiences of my life. And I felt God. I felt God changing me. I felt him moving through my family while I wasn't here. I felt him, and I've never felt him that much before. And I felt like that was like just the beginning of this amazing journey that God is going to take me on. And so, yeah, I've been through a lot in my life, a lot of things that I didn't understand. But I think how I just summarize it all is that everything that happens in your life, once you're a child of God, you can question it, but I never did, because I felt God with me and taking each step with me. And as we took each step, he explained why this is happening. And I really just had to stay in the word and just make that, the root of me. because without it, I wasn't going to understand anything. And so everything that has happened in my life, I've constantly been praying through it, and asking God to explain it, and just knowing that His will is always being done. And so now, yeah, I'm here. And, you know, I just thank God so much for everything that has happened, no matter how painful it was, no matter how heartbreaking, all the people that have come and gone out of my life, the people that I have lost to different things. It's just like everything I've seen, it's like you don't understand it when it's happening, but even it could take like 2 years, and then something happens, you're like, wow, so that's why that happened 2 years ago. So that's just how my life has been, and it's just been like, God, whatever happens next, I can't wait to see you explain it to me, and, you know, just reveal it to me, so this is why that happened, you know. So that's my testimony. The rest of it, at least. I know this was super long, but I wanted to share this with you guys. I don't know if it blessed you. I hope it did. That's just the ultimate goal with sharing this. So yeah, that's the testimony of Mars. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Whatever day it is for you when you watch this, have a great rest of your week. And yeah, that's all. See you guys later. Bye.